Coach, have you ever wondered what does it actually look like to go from working in corporate to being a coach full time? Then stay tuned to this episode of the PT Profit Podcast, where I'm sitting down with my client, Coach Kadimah, and he is sharing with us all about the ins and outs of his process, how he went from corporate to owning a gym, or really to being from a professional athlete to working corporate to running a gym to being a full-time coach in the online space. Are you ready? Let's roll that interview.
How are ya?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing so good. Welcome to the show today. I'm super pumped that you're here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I can't wait to dive in today. So for those of you who are tuning in and have never had the pleasure of knowing your work or being introduced into your work, I'd love for you to share with us a little bit about who you are, how you got there, and who you help and how you got there.
I can make this very short-winded, very long-winded. We'll see where we land.
Okay, great.
I've been a nutrition coach for almost 20 years. I started as an athlete, right? My coaches said I had a gift for teaching the other athletes what to do, right? So that started as a junior or senior in high school, right? Fast forward, I go to college. I don't really know what I'm doing. I just know I want to be in business. And, but I still was good at teaching. I was just ignoring that trade because I was like, if I'm here and I'm doing sports, I want to make money when I get out of here. So business is where people make money, right? It's pretty much how I ended up with an economics degree. When I finally figured it out, though, I was a junior in college at A&M, A&M University, and I finally figured it out. Like, I want to go exercise science. So I go to my advisor. I'm having this meeting, and she's like, "Hey, that's great, but you are going to be a freshman again as of classification." And so I was like, well, you know what? Let me think about that for a couple of days. And I was like, I don't like college that much. I'm sure there's a way around this. Let's just get out of college, make some money. We'll figure it out later. So mind you, I'm still in athletics. I'm still playing football. I'm still doing all of those things. I get out of college. I still have the bug a little bit. I go to the NFL Combine. Things don't go the way that I like them to go. I'm still working in the corporate realm, and I'm doing training part-time. My first 2 training clients that I ever had were 60 years old. 60 years old. So, right, I am lead athlete on this side, training 60-year-old clients, right? And that was easy, right? And so I loved it. But I couldn't figure out in my mind, especially back then is 2007, 2008, the only friends that I knew that were in fitness were working at 24 Hour Fitness or LA Fitness. They were making $11 an hour and making 70, 80-hour weeks. That just was not interesting to me. And I was working for a private studio, so that was kind of, at some point I ditched it because I didn't think it was where I wanted to be. A couple years later, I get a call from a friend saying, "Hey, I need some help training these girls as a contract for about 4 months." Every time he asked me before, I always said no. This time was different. I had gone up as far as I could go up in the ladder for me. I was traveling. I was visiting Boston a couple times a year, wining and dining clients. I was doing the corporate thing you see on TV. I was doing it. And, taking these red-eye flights in the morning. I can remember the first time I went, try not to side story too much.
That's all right.
We were late.
We're here for the side story. Let's hear it.
Okay. So the flight is for 5:30 in the morning. We're there early. Okay. I'm in line and I see that this guy is arguing with security, or he tries to go through security without going through all the stuff. Okay. They tackle him. I hear, "Get on the ground." And so they shut down that whole security, and we had to go reroute it around, which delayed all the flights that day. So we get into Boston an hour and a half later than we're supposed to be. My boss is calling me constantly asking, "Why aren't you here? We're supposed to be at lunch in 20 minutes. You got some explaining to do."
Where are you?
Right? So I get to Boston, first time in Boston. I'm super excited, right? I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool, but I'm also like stressed because I'm supposed to be in a lunch meeting with these clients. So luckily I was smart enough to have my suit on already. So I had my suit on. I didn't have to change or dress or anything. I'm looking for the rental car because I was like, I need a rental car for these next couple days, etc. I got a rental car with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Well, all of the ones in the line where you're looking for the shuttles were everything but Enterprise.
Always.
So I'm like, you know what? I'll just ask for help, right? I mean, how hard could it be for me to ask for help? So I go and ask a guy who's running the shuttle. I said, "Hey, I see all these other names. Do you have the one that's for Enterprise?" And he goes, "This is budget." And I was like, okay. Maybe he didn't hear me. Right. So I step out of the bus, I stand there for a second. I go, let me ask again. I know you just told me that this is budget, but I got rid of enterprise. It doesn't seem to be in this line anywhere. Do you happen to know what year? And he goes, hey, man, this is budget. Now, highly stressed,
Yeah. Boss is calling.
late, boss is calling, and so I'm okay. So I go in the third time and I ask him, and he says the same thing to me. He's like, what do you not understand? This is budget. I said, look, buddy, I don't know who you are. I'm from Texas. I've never been here before. But if you tell me that it's budget one more time, I'm going to throw some hands at you right now. Like, I'm done. And he goes, hey, man, chill. I'll take you to the enterprise. I don't know why it was like that. I have no idea. But that was the struggle to get there. So I make up time to the first lunch I basically miss. They're already eating lunch, but I sit down, tell them the story. They laugh. And somehow that makes up a little bit of that thing, right? So I had done some of these trips multiple times a year, multiple times, and I enjoyed them. They were great trips, but I left coming back. When I come back, I was like, is this all there is? This is it.
Wow.
Like, there's nowhere to go, right? I'm selling software. Just doesn't do anything for me. So when I got that fateful call, we're talking fall of 2011, I get that call. I'm like, yeah, let me think about it. Now, at this time, I've been in the corporate realm a little bit, sitting down a lot. I still go to the gym, but I never did cardio. I only lifted weights. As long as my chest was bigger than the bottom half, we were good to go. I was very unaware that I was as big as I was until I said yes to training some kids. I looked at myself and I said, whoa. I stepped on the scale, 98. It's 298. Didn't even have an idea. Didn't even know. I guess I carried it well, whatever you want to say. I started training those kids, which forced me to go, bro, you got to lose some weight. Who wants to talk to you? Who wants to listen to you about being athletic? So that got me back into the health and wellness, etc. During that time, I worked out at 5 in the morning, and then I'd get in the office around 7:30, get done at 5:30, and then travel to go to the place to train the kids. So it was 45 minutes from my home. I'd get there, train the kids for 3 hours, and then return back home. So every night was 5 a.m. to 10 p.m., rinse and repeat. But I can tell you that that 45-minute drive, anticipating me to train those kids, and those 3 hours that I got to train those kids were the best part of my day. And it was about 2 months in that I realized that I have to change careers. I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know how I was going to make any money. None of that stuff. So I left 4 months. Last week of a sales quarter, I left, which is usually my best week. I left, put in my notice, and then started training kids 12 hours a day, 6 locations, driving to each one, renting space from different gyms, doing all this stuff to make ends meet, which was to pay insurance, groceries, a cell phone, the basic accoutrements, right? And I did that for 7 months till I got enough clientele to rent a space. And that's how it started.
There it is. And now you've been
Yeah.
doing that now. 20 years, that's so long. Okay, so a couple of things. I feel like a lot of us who have left corporate have very similar stories. So what I'm curious about is what has been your experience transitioning from being a nutrition coach from back in the day working with athletes? Like something you said, which I thought was very interesting. You said, my coach told me that I was very good at helping athletes and showing athletes and telling athletes what to do. I think there is a misconception that people think that if you're athletic, then you must know what you're doing, which I just don't think is true. So I'm curious for you, what are some of the differences that you've noticed working with an athletic population versus also working with the general population?
Okay, a couple of things. One, typically my athletic population is going to be younger. So they need more proof before they listen. My older population have already gotten that proof before we've gotten there, meaning they know that they already know their insecurities. The athlete is just going, I need to get faster. I think you know what you're talking about, but we'll see. There's a little bit of seed of doubt there. My older population is like, look, I haven't been able to figure it out on my own. I'm desperate, right? And they give me it, and they're looking for the signs after I start. The athlete is very much, I think you can get me faster, but we'll see. kind of thing, and you kind of have to check them. You have to kind of check their ego quite a bit, especially with the teenagers, which there's a few that I'm working with right now. So,
I get it. I have a 10-year-old and she's not
Boy.
quite a teenager, but like I'm like,
But-
oh, I'm dreading the next 6 years.
it's gonna be a great time. It's gonna be a great time.
So I'm curious, as a nutrition coach, what are some of the fundamental principles that your general population surprise you that they don't know that you feel like everybody knows?
I think movement. I think the how little we move is number one. How little we move is number one. The average American takes less than 3,000 steps per day, right? So that means maybe a total mile of actual movement the entire day. And then when you consider what happened during COVID, which is starting to move around a little bit, people are getting more in the office. That's starting to reverse itself. All those things are happening. But some people took advantage of COVID and they lost weight. They were outside more, etc. And most of the stories you hear, I'm still dealing with the COVID weight, right? Because their lifestyle really never changed after COVID, right? They gained the weight, and in Texas specifically, you were being able to buy, you could get margaritas delivered, right? So like all these rules, like they were just basically begging people to like drink and sit in the house. But movement is number one by far. If anything that I figured out for almost every client, it is movement. They do not move near enough.
So when you say movement, what are you talking about? Working out? What do you mean?
No, I just mean, in my practice, typically I talk about steps. I talk about everything in a steps manner, not a miles, not a timed interval, but a steps. And so the average mile is about 2,000 to 2,500 steps, depending on how big you are, right? How big your gait is. And typically when I'm talking about that with people, I'm talking about, hey, we need to get a certain amount of steps per day as activity, right? And through that activity, that's what's going to help us yield results in the long term and keep that belly off.
What are the markers that you tend to see or that you tend to go for?
As far as steps or just markers in general?
Steps.
So my marker is the minimum that people should be moving is 8,000 steps per day. The upper limit of that, where we see the benefits, most of the benefits from the cardiac, your cardiovascular benefits seems to be about 12,000 steps. Outside of that, it just allows you to eat more. So if you're an eater, use the steps. It's the easiest way to keep off that budge.
Okay, so movement, number one, then?
Yeah, I would say after movement is protein. I think we eat a lot of protein, right? Most people gravitate towards carbs and fats. I mean, my best friend is popcorn, so I got to keep that guy in control because he eats way too much popcorn. He has a favorite popcorn store. That's how you know it's serious. He has a favorite popcorn store. That's me.
Got it. Okay. Well, people use popcorn as one of those, snacks that you can eat as like, oh, that's a healthy snack.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I still go overboard with it. That's the problem, right? That healthy snack just turned into an all-you-can-eat buffet, right? So I just,
Okay, so protein, number two.
Yes. Outside of protein, then we start looking at sleep. Sleep is another epidemic that I'm seeing that we discuss heavily because we're on devices all the time. We're getting a lot more screen time. Our caffeine consumption, a problem. Almost everyone in some way, shape, or form has some sort of caffeine consumption, or just going to bed too late. And they pretend as if they're a teenager again, where they can function on 5 hours of sleep. And it's one thing to function on 5 hours of sleep, meaning I can get up, do my job, come home, etc. And then they don't know the difference between what can really feel good. It's like if you've been in chronic pain, anybody that'll tell you that they've been in chronic pain for a certain amount of time, they really don't know the difference until they've been out of chronic pain. And I feel like that's the same thing when you haven't had sleep. And I'm talking about good 7 hours of sleep, right? 7 to 8 hours of sleep on a consistent basis. It also aids in your fat loss and muscle retention. So this is another big marker, for my practice when we're talking about getting people's lifestyles in line.
Okay, so after sleep then?
Eating like an adult. I mean, it's fruits and vegetables, fiber. These things help you feel full. They keep your gut healthy. They keep everything regular, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And your skin is clearer. These things are pivotal in your health.
Okay. And then?
I didn't touch on this, but because I usually, when I'm dealing with my clients, I usually start with this first, but everyone should have their blood work done. Everyone. And the reason why is because it doesn't matter how you slice it. No one eats a complete diet that is perfectly nutrient dense for them. So where you have every vitamin, mineral, everything that you need. So you need to get your blood work done because it's going to uncover some things in there that is going to keep you from being as fat loss efficient as possible and just as healthy as possible, keeping you away from any sickness, disease, etc. Your blood work needs to be done. And not your standard yearly checkup where they check your total cholesterol. They may or may not check your hormones. They check your insulin. They check a few other markers, maybe your thyroid, but it's like total thyroid. No, I'm talking about a deep dive.
Yeah, what is your blood panel that you want to see?
Okay, so we want to see vitamin D. We want to see magnesium, RBC, complete metabolic panel, full hormone deep dive, whether you're a man or a woman. PSA score, which is a prostate score for a man. Even at younger ages, we want to see these numbers. We want to see your inflammatory scores. We want to see your A1C. We want to see everything, the kitchen sink of it. Almost as if you were an executive of a large Fortune 500 company and they wanted to protect you, right? Typically what they would do is called an executive panel or executive blood panel. And what that allows us to do is see every marker above and beyond. And the reason why we do that is because we're trying to uncover anything that can prevent us from securing your life. Life insurance companies are incredibly great at this because they have panels for every single thing, right? If you're a key holder at a company, typically that means you're a special person. So if you die, the company's going to really suffer if you die. So they also do an extensive blood panel in there, right? And this is the type of blood work that I pull so that we can get information that we can utilize to make sure your body's functioning as well as possible.
What are some of the things that you see when you're evaluating people's blood works that are typical surprises that people didn't anticipate?
Cortisol and stress and inflammation. No idea how much cortisol, stress, and inflammation. And some, I see a lot of, vitamin D deficiency, which will wreak havoc on their hormones, right? Those are the four things that I typically see. Most people think that they're going to have a thyroid issue or they can't figure out why they can't lose weight. Those are completely separate issues. Most blood work I come back is usually a couple vitamin or mineral deficiency related things. And most of it is lifestyle oriented.
So how can you differentiate for your clients? What's the difference between what is lifestyle and what is actually hormonal or blood work related? Because I've heard a lot, in my career, people always saying, I'm in a plateau. I can't lose any more weight, or I can't gain any more muscle, whatever the specific goal is, if we're talking body composition. So I'm curious for you, in your experience, what are some of the common practices or things or outliers that you see that help you differentiate between what is an actual plateau, what is an actual hormonal component, or what is hey, you're just not counting bites, licks, and tastes?
Okay. So, that's good. Bikes, licks, and tastes. Okay. Here's what I would say. We change it by one variable at a time. So if I'm working with somebody new and they tell me, I haven't been able to lose weight and I only eat 100 calories a day or something to this manner. Okay. I start going down the line. Okay. Well, this is without even talking about blood. This is just lifestyle. Well, how active are you per day? Do you work out? I'm working out 6 days a week. Oh, wow. Okay. What kind of weight what are you doing? And then once we go down there, okay, so they're working out hard. What's your step count? I'm taking 14,000 steps per day. Okay. How are you about, how many calories are you consuming on a regular basis? I'm only eating 1,300. Red flag. And depending on the person, but 1,300 calories is really, really low already. And you would have to eat very, very strategic foods every single day in order to get without supplementation, in order to get exactly the nutrients that you need. So I already know there's a problem. It sounds like metabolic suppression, meaning my metabolism is slowed down to meet the demands of the food that I'm eating on a regular basis, right? So we know that that's an issue, right? And for most people, I would say women between 33 to 45. I see this all the time because what happened is when they're 20s, they just cut their calories and it worked, right? Their body just adapted and it worked. And then the moment they noticed that they started gaining a little bit of weight back, they just went back to that calorie deficit before. Eventually, the body gets smart and says, you know what? We're going to lower that metabolism because we're not getting that much food. So we're going to slow this bit down. Now, when they go on vacation, because it's not, they're not going to eat that way perfectly all year. Holidays, vacations, little bites, licks, and tastes here or there add up. They end up gaining some weight back. The next time they go to do the same diet that gave them success before, it works way, way less. They only lose 2 or 3 pounds or 5 pounds. Now they can't figure it out. Now they're stuck, frustrated. So they say, the heck with it, right? And have a couple drinks of wine or have et cetera. And they start going into this rebounding phase back and forth, up and down. And so you see this over and over and over. When they, then they're looking for alternatives. There's no, this is where I see most of the problem is for women specifically between those ages. Most of the time I see just metabolic suppression, meaning they did to a lower calorie eating lifestyle and then they binge at times and forget that they binge at times.
So now, how does one know? Because, a lot of people fight on the internet about metabolic suppression. Sometimes people will say this is starvation mode or whatever. They'll say things like your metabolism does not adapt as fast as people say. So, or as people think, I'll say it that way. So and that oftentimes people will argue, at least on the internet, they'll argue that people are just not honest with themselves around how many calories they're actually consuming. So in your experience, how long does one person need to chronically eat at that, undereat at that level before you start seeing some metabolic suppression happening?
8 to 12 weeks.
That's it.
So that's it. And
How long do you
if you're doing
on their cuts?
So when I start, especially if I'm going to hit the stage, if I'm going on a bodybuilding stage, it's 20 weeks long. And the reason for that is twofold. One, I'm a natural bodybuilder, so I don't take any exogenous hormones. So I have to be very, very careful about how I go into a deficit because I start losing muscle mass as a result, even if I'm training hard, even if I'm eating a separate amount of protein, etc. So I take a 20-week approach to get there, right? Because then I can slowly give away things like, okay, I'm going to take away a couple bits of calories. All right, now I'm going to start walking more steps to get me to lose some more inches. Okay, now I actually have to do cardio. Well, I'm only going to do cardio twice a week until I have to do it more. So I'm taking the most steady approach to get me down to that level. Let me also preface this by saying I also take diet breaks.
Yes,
And
I
this
was about to
keeps the
ask you,
metabolism.
how often are you actually cycling, whether or not you're cut, maintenance, or build?
4. So I go 4 weeks. 4 weeks when I'm in a deficit and I'm pushing hard. I go 1 week of maintenance. So 4 weeks hard, 1 week of maintenance. 4 weeks hard, 1 week of maintenance. And I do that.
20
And
weeks.
then, yes.
Okay, and then you do eat in a maintenance?
I only eat maintenance until we get it only in that window where I'm trying to keep the metabolism high so fat loss is easier. Once we're getting in that closer to that stage time, the calories are coming down, the carbohydrates are coming down, the cardio is going up, and I'm not happy. And I'm trying to have patience with people, and I'm trying to smile, but the smiles don't come very easy. And if you interrupt me while I'm eating, I will look at you with the death stare because I don't want to be bothered and I want to enjoy this plain oatmeal and egg whites, okay? That's on the extreme side. But even when I'm working with the lifestyle client and they just want to get down in weight, set up their metabolism first. Because they're metabolically suppressed, it doesn't make sense for me to put them in a caloric deficit if they're only eating 1,300 calories. But what we find is once we start giving them more protein and more food and we put in these lifestyle habits before we start a deficit, they've already lost weight, even though we've increased their calories.
Okay, so I want to talk about 2 things here, okay? So now I know we were talking about like a body lifting schedule here, but do you have the same metabolic approach for Gen Pop? Like, would you do the same thing if somebody had 50 pounds to lose?
Yes and no. there's some lifestyle carryovers. It's just I'm using the same tools, but I'm using them differently, right? Instead of using this wrench to fix the sink, I'm now using it to put on the hose outside, if that makes sense. So activity is still going to be important. And also whatever goal that they told me in mind that they had, right? When you're dealing with someone who has to lose 100 pounds, it only takes one or two things consistently to get them there. But I find that when I'm helping someone that has 100 pounds to lose, this is the hardest part, right? Is that there is some other component, mentally, emotionally, that pulls them away from these consistent habits, right? So it's the things that I'm helping people with that have 20 to 50 pounds to lose are different than the things that I have that are people who have 100 pounds to lose, right? There may have been something very, very mental that we have to work through. So I become super counselor guy to help them work through that, right? And to keep them on track. And I'm not a person who says that we can't utilize different tools. I have some clients using GLPs. I'm not against GLPs. I think they're a great tool.
You know those. Okay, go.
But here's my crux with GLPs. I'm looking up new information every single day. New studies that are coming out about GLPs. That GLPs that are being tested by the FDA to see if they're going to be approved because they're better than the ones that are out there right now, right? But there are lots of side effects that are coming up, right? That that people are taking that risk, right? And here's the thing: they're using it as this is the easy button. If you remember Staples commercials, it is the easy button. It helps to control appetite, right? And they lose a bunch of weight. And then when they can't afford it because they've been very expensive via insurance, it's getting less expensive now because of the need. They don't ever learn the habits. So it still comes back to the habits. And what you eat on a GLP when you're taking a GLP needs to change drastically. And if you were only eating because you felt, when I talk to clients about eating, well, I felt like, eating the chocolate croissant at Starbucks because it sounded so good, right? Okay, Oh, we went to the sushi place the other night and I got a dragon roll. It was incredible, and sushi's healthy, right? And we only had 2 sake, and so, I calculated the calories. It wasn't that much, and well, tomorrow I went to Whataburger because I haven't had one of their Whataburger honey butter chicken biscuits in a long time, and it's got protein, so much of eating is emotional, and I'm with you here, but where I'm not is that every meal seems to be a Last Supper type of emotional piece to it.
I'm starting tomorrow, so I need to make sure I get my last meal in. Yes.
Or even, it's just on a regular day. They eat so many different varieties of foods day per day, right? Now, when I say something crazy is, hey, let's get you 2 to 3 breakfast options that you can cycle through the week. What? Wait, my brain can't compute. Side quest or side thing. One of my favorite movies is Something About Mary. Okay. When Ben Stiller picks up the hitchhiker and the hitchhiker telling him the story and he's like, all right, check this out. I got this program, right? And on the commercial, it was 8-minute abs, okay? But mine's going to be 7-minute abs, right? Because if you could do it in 7 minutes, right? I feel like that's the conversation that I'm having with people, right? When I talk about eating a couple meals, or just this week. Hey, let's look at these for this week. These align with your goals, and let's see what happens the next week, right? That's the conversation that I'm having with many people about the food that they need to eat, when they need to eat it, But, my husband and I go on date night, like, hey, cool. We just plan for it, right? Well, I just like to go in there and look at the menu. Fine, you can look at the menu, but you're ordering this off the menu. Because this is where you're going to get to go. If you want to be successful here, we do have to put some strong guardrails at some point, right? An electric fence, if you will. Those moments need to happen. So,
okay,
I went on a little rant there.
I like it. But I am curious, so I know, you said we need to do diet breaks. Do you do diet breaks for people who have a lot to lose?
If they start seeing some metabolic suppression, yes. And I think they need a break mentally. So it's less of a physical break and more of a mental break.
Got it. So do you do 4 weeks, 1 week, or do you leave it longer?
I will go up to 8 weeks.
So you'll do 8
Up
weeks.
to 8 weeks.
And that's because it takes 8 to 12 weeks to really start seeing any type of metabolic suppression.
Yes.
Now, how long? So you'll do 8 weeks and then 1 week break, or will you do a longer break?
Sometimes I've done 2. If we really in the trenches, a couple bodybuilder, competitive clients that I've worked with, and we've had a lot to lose, or I've done a little bit longer break. Some lifestyle clients have done a little bit longer break, but it's very much case by case.
Got it. Now,
Like sometimes if a bunch of life happens and they're in travel and we're trying to keep a deficit while we know that they're going to be in several different cities, and the food choices, and we're talking consistently, we'll just be at maintenance,
got it.
during that time frame.
So now what about for builds? Do you ever do a muscle build for your clients that have a lot to lose?
Yes, but the great thing about that is you can lose weight or inches or fat and gain muscle at the same time, right? It will come down to making sure that our protein take is high, that we're structuring workouts that force anabolic change, right? So we're lifting heavy or progressively overloading, which could look at like 2 ways. We could increase our weights every single week, or we could increase the amount of repetitions that we do and still see a similar result in gaining muscle over that time.
Got it. Okay. So so now I want to go back to this metabolic suppression, okay? Because what are some of the signs that you look for that would indicate someone's in a metabolic suppression?
When we first start working with them, right?
Like,
Okay, so when I'm first working with,
like even when you're in it, like what are some of the signs or indicators that you're like, ooh, because my next question, and this is piggybacking with this, is adherence, right? So a lot of success is ultimately going to come down to a client adherence, which you and I probably don't have to tell you that can sometimes be challenging in itself, just because of a whole lot of different reasons, right? Life's gonna life. We've got goals that are too hard. We've got identity shifts that actually need to happen because we've got some nervous system stuff. Like there's a lot of stuff at play for your lifestyle clients. So
good question.
Yeah.
And I think there's 2 ways to look at it. If I'm dealing with the client at the beginning, I'm always looking at, let's say calorie tracker, but I'll look at it, some TDEE indications. I'll look at the charts. I'll look at the numbers to say, based upon the person who is 5'7" and weighs 157 pounds, and they have this much activity, this is where their metabolism should be. Now there's variances of this, right? But that's where that will start. Now, if we're in the mix of this and we've seen they're getting close to the end of the diet, we're actually having a talk about this on a weekly basis. Hey, you did really well last week. You didn't lose as much, but your inches, you put on your check-in that your inches went down, right? Or you were able to get in a pair of pants that fit differently or something else. Because when you're in a fat loss phase, that's what I call it. You're in a fat loss phase, right? We're strategically trying to lose fat. A lot of variables are at play, and we could eat the same foods exact. Man, this is from my personal experience, and this is why I love bodybuilding so much, especially from the side of seeing the scientific portion of this. I was so dedicated that, to eating the same amount of food, drinking the same amount of water, controlling my sodium as much as possible, to see the scale go down every single day, right? Or weekly, that when it didn't go down, I was ticked, right? And I was like, how's this possible? I eat the exact same things, right? And so I talked to my coach, right? Why did this happen? He's like, well, you could have had more stress that day. What happened that day? And I was like, well, I did get in an argument with someone, and I didn't get as good sleep, and numerous factors, right? And most of them being around stress. And my weight fluctuated anywhere from 3 to 4 pounds in an evening or a night just from stress or cortisol or any of these mechanisms that could vary that. So when we're going through this fat loss phase, there are a couple things. One is, how are they adhering? Are they getting more tempted by snacks, right? Or, are they looking for a break all the time? That's one thing. Is their weight loss slowing, right? Are we getting to the point where we went through a whole week and they lost 2 pounds that week? And I said, hey, you're doing great. We're not changing the thing. The next week they lost 1.5 pounds. The following week they lost 1 pound. The next week they only lost 0.5 pound, right? And that's 4 weeks in, right? Okay, we're getting to the point where we're going to have to add some more activity in here. How are you feeling? I don't know if I could do it anymore right now. Okay, well, this is a great time for us to take a break, okay? And we can go back up to maintenance. Now, I need to warn you, okay, you're going to have more calories. Here's what that means, okay? For every gram of carbohydrates, that's about 3.7 to 4 grams of water, depending on what chart you hear or what report you hear. So you're going to gain weight on the scale. I need you to be okay with that because it's not fat that you're gaining, right? And we have to have this talk because this could be demoralizing for someone who's in a fat loss phase, who has seen the scale, right, not lied to them for a couple weeks in a row. And all of a sudden, I give them some more calories. They adhere to the calories. You draw a really good plan, and then their weight goes up, right? Temporarily, of course, but it still goes up. And so these are the kind of conversations we have to have in the middle of a maintenance phase.
Yeah. Okay, I have 2 more questions around this. One is, do you think everyone needs to track, and for how long?
I think if you track, okay, so this is the way that I like to have people track, is for sure at the beginning, because everybody thinks they only eat a certain amount, right? So absolutely at the beginning, like first week, we're going to track everything. And if you don't track everything, we don't go past a step until you track everything. So if you miss 2 things, oh, I didn't track that, I go, hey, I need you to track the whole week. Because right now, those 2 things are guesses. And unless we have it, it doesn't count, right? So it seems a little hard, but I go, hey, look, it's black and white. You tracked it or you didn't track it, right? We're not going back. You can't add it right now. You go another week. That delay is on you, right? So that's the first thing. We track at the beginning. And then you track once a week, actually during a fat loss phase.
When you say track, what are you tracking? Now, I know in the first week, it's everything in your mouth, but then once you go to once a week, then what are you tracking?
You've already prepared your meals for the week. Part of my strategy, especially for busy parents, working professionals, et cetera, is they already know what their boundaries are for the week. So there's no more, I'm not good. As much as I practice this, I can go to Chipotle and go, okay, I got to get a double chicken, moderate rice, extra veggies. I can get a little corn, the medium salsa, the pico. Don't get any cheese. Don't get any sour cream. And I can get a little bit of black beans, right? And I know that's going to be 55 grams of protein, 7 grams of carbs or whatever, because but even when you go to Chipotle, you've guesstimated that meal, and you're not at the point where you get to guess.
Yeah.
That's when you're in maintenance and you got a little bit of, around life. You can go in there and at this point, no, right? We need accurate intakes. And so I tell people like, hey, beginning of the week, if you're going to have a Greek yogurt bowl with granola and chia seeds and some raspberries, we're going to know exactly what's in there. And you're going to do it the same way every day, right? Put it on the scale, put it in there, et cetera. And they go, that's overwhelming.
Everyone's always like, but that's so much work. But the reality is that if you really sat and thought about it, all of us probably eat the same 5 things for breakfast and dinner all the time. Like, we just are creatures of habit. We all eat the same things.
We do. And I just tell them, hey, go grab the packaged ones.
Yeah.
You don't have to get the tub. Boom. Half your work is done, right? Like your chia seeds. I mean, it's not that hard, right? Like some of this stuff is not that hard, but it's the thought of process of change and like, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming work, which brings me to another point. When I'm helping clients go through this stuff, you remember how I said, hey, you got to track everything in this week. And if you don't track it, it doesn't count. We don't pass go. We don't collect $200. We don't do anything until you do that step. Like, that's the way it goes. Right? So, they love it because they think they can do 2 or 3 things at the same time, right? And here's what we know, right? If I give my client one thing to do over the course of the week, one brand new thing that they haven't been doing, they have an 80% chance of being successful, which is crazy, right? Like, why wouldn't you have 80%? If I give them 2 brand new things to do, 47% that they're going to be successful. If I give them 3 things, less than 15%. So instead of spinning my wheels, getting frustrated because they couldn't do all 3 things, right? Because, they have 3 or 4 kids, they're in select sports, they're traveling here, they're going there, they have a busy career, et cetera, et cetera. I go, hey, we're just going to focus on one thing. And I always try to remind people because of movies, which I love movies, okay? But every movie with a workout montage or a transformation paints the picture that, hey, it only required me to sacrifice my family, not be around, and do it within 6 weeks. And then I kept it for the rest of my life, right? And I'm like, no, here's what we're going to do. You're going to drink water for the rest of your life because that's what your body's made of, water, and you need to live. And you're going to drink this much water because you're going to feel good, okay? And once you drink this much water, you can have wine, you can have beer, I don't care, but you're going to have this much water, and you're going to do it till you go into the grave, okay? Hey, you're going to eat this much protein because when we get older, we process protein even less efficiently. We're going to need to have a high protein diet, and we're going to do this forever. And so I always talk to them about, hey, these are forever steps. These are not while you're with me steps. Like, you're going to do this forever, right? So you lose your way, you go on vacation and you eat everything. Not like I would know anything about that. Every time I go on vacation, I eat everything, okay? I break every rule.
Yeah.
Everyone. No water.
But don't you feel
Dessert at breakfast.
But doesn't it feel?
Oh, 100%. But it's not day one. It's not day one that I feel bad.
Yeah.
Okay? It's day 5.5. It's day 5.5. Okay.
Yes.
About there. And then I'm like, wow, I can't wait to get back to normal. So I've eat it out of my system, basically. Eat it and drink it out of my system.
Next question, because people say, like, is it true that you have to reverse diet out of a calorie deficit, or is
100%.
Okay.
100%. Now, the interesting thing is there isn't a lot of studies on this. There's very few studies on the reverse diet. But I can tell you that it is excruciatingly successful for what I've seen. Every single client that I have that does a reverse diet does extremely well.
Okay, so what is that?
Right. And so there's really 4 phases of this, and it just depends on the sensitivity of someone who doesn't want to gain a bunch of fat back. Right. Now, where this process was first started was really bodybuilding. Is you get down to 5%, 5% weight, body fat, and typically a lot of bodybuilders, depending on how they did it, would rebound 20 to 30 pounds after a show very fast, right? Like,
that feels
hormonally, you just can't stop eating. Like, you never get full. Even if you are full, you still can eat more, right? And so the reverse diet looks like three to 4 different phases. You could either do where you only increase your calories by 2% per week, which I find is pretty difficult. I think the lower body fat you are, the harder it is to stick to just 2% in calories per week, because eating 2,000 calories, 2%, not very many calories, right? The next is 3 to 5%. So 3 to 5% increase in calories, and you're going week to week, right? Every single week you're adding more, or you can go up to 8. 8% is the most aggressive that I've seen, and where you would increase your calories by 8% every single week, right? Mostly in the form of carbohydrates.
Or would you do 2, 3, 8?
Typically, I start at 3.
Okay.
I start at 3 because I find my 0 to 2% doesn't even feel like that's very much, and depends on the client. Usually about 12 weeks, 12 to 14 weeks is where you start to see them, and it really doesn't happen until about 8 or 9 weeks, because that accumulation of calories seems, wow, I got to eat a lot more. Right. And I'm feeling a lot better.
So when you got a client on a deficit and you're doing 8 weeks and then 1 week maintenance, are you doing a step of like 3% increase in between and then maintenance? So is it really like 8 weeks, reverse diet, and then maintenance? No.
It's not. I go directly into, they go deficit for those 8 weeks, or 4 weeks, depending on, how sensitive they are about, right? We go 4 weeks, and then we go 1 week, 4-week deficit, 1 week maintenance, 4-week deficit, 1 week maintenance. And then once we get to the goal, and typically the conversation is like this: hey, I saw in your pictures, you're looking really good. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah.
Good. I go, well, what do you want to do? Because theoretically, you're where you want to be.
So now we need to
Or
reverse.
are you?
So you have to reverse diet to maintain, so that you do it metabolically instead of crashing the metabolism.
Yeah, and what will happen is you'll balloon up. I mean, you'll just balloon up, and you gain this weight, and you're like, I did all that work, and it's erased in a couple weeks. I did all that work, and it was gone in a couple weeks. But the conversation becomes, hey, do you want to push further? Would you like to go leaner? And they're like, yeah, well, let's try it for 1 week. And I go, okay, let's go for 1 week. And they go for a week, and they're just a bit leaner, but they notice that it's harder, because the leaner you get, the harder it's going to be, right? The more time it takes, not really harder, just more time. And they get there and they go, no, I think we're good now. I think I'd like to start reversing this. I said, okay, fantastic. So you need to pretend like we're in the same phase of getting down there, going back up. We need to be strict. And then there's going to be a moment when I tell them that you don't have to be this strict. And at this time, they develop the skills. They understand what portion size of foods, but I still tell them to check themselves. Like once a month, you need to start measuring stuff again. Like you need to check it out because the Bible verse that comes to me is a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands, and poverty will come on you like a one-armed bandit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I apply this to everything. Like, look, I just do this half little step right here. And I do that enough times, I stop being that disciplined person. And I don't really notice it.
Yeah.
It just takes some time, right? And so that's the process by which somebody has to go through those phases, right?
So basically, the reverse diet is essentially when you are signaling to your body and your metabolism that this is my new maintenance.
Yes.
This is it.
Yes. And a lot of times, because you've lost that weight, you've become more insulin sensitive, right? Like you respond better to calories, you absorb calories better, your body utilizes the energy better. And because it does, I find that I'm careful to say this, because you still need to have all the other variables. You still need to work out, you still need to take care of your hydration, your sleep, etc., manage stress. I find that there's more room for error.
But now you have flexibility. It's metabolic flexibility.
Yes.
And now your brain and body knows how to flip the switch between using fat storage or fat energy or carbohydrate energy, essentially.
Exactly.
Yes. Flexibility.
And you can eat ice cream, right? Like, I mean, the bites, licks, and tastes don't affect you as much.
Right.
They still do. They still count.
They sneak. Don't eat
They do.
leftover breakfast. You just don't.
He's got chicken nuts. He's got chicken nuggets on his plate. I love those chicken nuggets. I'm not going to bite them.
Don't bite them.
I'm not going to bite.
Okay, so this has been amazing. Thank you so much for your insight, for pouring into me and into my community. For those of you who want to go deeper with you, Kadimah, where are the best places that I can send them?
Easiest place is just my Instagram. It's Kadimah.Duncan. So just KADIMAH.DUNCAN. Or my website, my brand is templemovement.com. It takes you kind of to my landing page right there and has a lot of information about my program. I have a free 5-step blueprint webinar that kind of takes you through my process, my program, how I help individuals. It's a long training. So
But it's
buckle up. It's about 40. Yes, it's a fantastic training. It's very thorough, and it's going to answer a lot of questions you've always wanted to know.
Love it. Okay. And I'll make sure I link all of that up in the show notes.
Awesome. Thank you so much.